Okay. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Y'all remember that song? I can't remember. Is that a gospel song or is that what song? I can't remember if that's a gospel song or if that's a. Yeah, that's a gospel song. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Whoa. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Y'all know what that song is really about? Y'all know what that song is really truly about? Consciousness. Consciousness is the true light. The true reality is consciousness. I was having a conversation. I was having a conversation with a brother the other day, and he was like, we was talking about. I was like, man, why you ain't been hitting me back, man? We supposed to be collabing, doing some stuff together, and he was like, yeah, I got some stuff going on with the family, and you know, dealing with the kids, and I was like, nah, that's real. I understand. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, yeah, man, because we can help each other platforms just by, because he has a platform where he has like Afrocentric scholarship and he interviews people. He has good interviewing skills. And what I was telling him was like, yo, we can take it to the next level. He was like, but it's growing, it's growing slow. I wanted to pick up on the growth. I said, man, you got to do some personal branding. You got to do some personal brand scripting and let people into who the interviewer is. You know what I'm saying? Not the interviewee, but the interviewer. The people want to know more about you. You know what I'm saying? And he was like, yeah, you're right. I said, so why you don't do like just some monologues, like just yourself on your YouTube, just you. He was like, I have it. Sometimes, man, it'd be difficult for me to just get on camera and like talk to myself. I was like, but you're not talking to yourself. You're talking to your audience that you built on YouTube. He was like, yeah, but it's awkward when I'm on camera. It's awkward for me to talk, just by myself. I said, well, how is your inner dialogue? Because that's going to reflect how you can talk to your audience just alone, just holding it down on the dolly. Sometimes you got to dolly it out, man, and then, let people into who you are. Because sometimes, just be honest, scholarship can be boring. And me and my wife talking about the other day, that's why I be like Dr. Ben. Dr. Ben, he was real charismatic. He pulls you in and captivates you into his lectures. You know what I'm saying? He has charisma. His teaching style is more intriguing, invigorating. It's more exciting. But when we're talking about that, so that relates to me. That relates to another state of awareness and coming into your consciousness and what the true light is, along with mental focus, mental concentration, something that we know is there, but we can't see it. We can't point to it. We can't touch it. It's not tangible, but it's eternal. I'm one to believe that the spirit and the mind is one. So if we're talking about consciousness and consciousness being the true light, and the only reality is consciousness, then that has to mean that we have to change our inner dialogue and our inner world to be able to see any changes on the outer world. And go back to that song, right? This little light of mine. Remember that song? I'm gonna let it shine. Whoa, that's symbolic to your consciousness. And we talked about how your consciousness is not tangible. You can't touch it. It's really not anything that's on a physical plane. However, it's the truest light in the most eternal part of you that if you mold it and cultivate it, it can change everything that you see physically. Because you have to deal with it internally first. You have to deal with it on an awareness level. And your mental focus is going to determine whether you're able to have these conversations with yourself, to be able to have these conversations that we're having right now. That conversation with the brother reminded me of how much I need to remind myself and refresh and rejuvenate and redirect my subconscious mind into living as if it's already happened. Stepping into the way that I want to live my life because it's already there. It's already happened. The spiritual people, we talk about it all the time. I ain't want to say spiritual people. Aware people, we talk about everything's happening. We have a different perception of time because everything is happening right now for us. Past, present, and future is all happening right now. So we're living in a space of timelessness within our own self. That means we're always constantly evolving and cultivating our consciousness, which is the true light. People say, you got that glow on you. You just are glowing. And, they say that, you see people often say that about pregnant women. And that's because they're molding multiple consciousnesses within their womb. They're literally cultivating multiple consciousness in their womb. It was a spark of consciousness that gave the life within the womb that they're cultivating and they're nourishing and they're keeping, right? So that's that glow that's coming. That this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. I'm telling y'all, man. That's where it comes from. That's where it comes from. So the inner dialogue and the inner communication that we have with ourselves is going to brighten that light because we're talking to the most eternal part of us, which is the consciousness, and we're getting in contact with the super consciousness, which is what comes from what creation comes from. The infinite source, the universal mind. Some people call it God, some people call it Allah, Jesus, Muhammad, whatever the case may be. We know that this force is what we're getting in contact with when we're coming into the true light. The true light of our consciousness is connected to the everlasting light of unfathomable, unimaginable, just, well, we can say cosmic consciousness because that's the light we're trying to get in contact with to become our own light. So when we become one with that light is when we become our own light. But that light never changes. It's consistent. It's consistent in what it is, and what it is we can't fathom. So if we're on a constant quest to mold our consciousness to become closer to that light, then that means that you can't let your light dim. It's pretty much impossible because that light will never dim. It's just we resist it and move away from it by self-limiting thoughts, doubt, self-doubt, earthly things that really truly don't even really matter, but they do because we're caught up in a place of distraction when it comes to being bound by this 3D way of living and existence, right? But how do we transcend that? This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Whoa, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. We transcend it with different type of things that we can use to, people say, manipulate reality, but it's really you're manipulating your own consciousness. You're going into your creative thought, your innovative thought, your divergent way of thinking, music, um, mental focus, mental concentration, releasing the bad thoughts and understanding that the way you see yourself is the way that you're going to see other things. And when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change by way of how you're molding your consciousness from the inside. And when you project that out, things begin to attract to you, become a magnet, because you're amplifying what it is that your existence is. So your heart no longer becomes a heart, and it no longer is a heart anymore. It's an actual magnet for prosperity. It becomes a magnet for that which your mind is focusing on. So this is the mind heart coherence. And then that passion and that emotional intensity brings forth what it is that you're manifesting, as they call it. But are you really manifesting, or are you becoming? Are you becoming that which you want? Consciousness truly is the true light. In this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Whoa. This little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. Y'all see I got the light in the back right there. It's for that effect on the angles, you know what I'm saying? The main thing, I keep it raw, organic, yo. You know what I'm saying? I keep it raw and organic when it comes to showcasing my personality. Some people say it's the personal reality, but it's the person with the awareness to know that of which reality they're in and how they experience reality. And the way that I experience reality comes from the way I control my emotional reactivity. So if I can control my emotional reactivity and my emotional regulation, if I can control and alchemize that in a way that I can transfer that into using that power to create what it is that I want to see, what I want to experience, because all is within. All is within. And in that experience, if I want to experience a full life of prosperity, living in my purpose of serving people through herbal medicine, spiritual growth, personal development. You know, I am a preventative medicine practitioner, practicing deep healing, understanding, getting better with my family skills, father skills, and allowing myself to change from within to be able to change the relationships that I want to see evolve and develop in my life by way of the relationship that I'm cultivating within myself. So if I see my life and being more self-sufficient, and I'm growing food, treating myself with herbs and others with herbs, I'm becoming a master within my skill set. I am a master within my skill set because I'm constantly on a quest of self-mastery. And that's a constant quest because there's always a new level of mastery, because there's always a new level of self-love. And once you begin to come into new levels of self-love, you begin to understand there's a new level to master. Because love is so powerful, we can ask for things and say, I want to become a self-master. And then the universe brings us all these different challenges and tests that are very painful, and so painful, sometimes shameful. Sometimes they take you to a point where you think you're just not going to make it. The spiritual initiations that you go through, it's like you're supposed to feel like you're not going to make it. And then when you get to a point, you say, I just want to give up. But you don't, and you come out on the other side of the river dry. That's what Malidoma talks about in his lectures. He talks about the rituals, the African rituals that his diviner would tell stories about, that he's still trying to understand and comprehend himself. But there's a story on how he talks about how he lost both his parents, and in losing both of his parents, he went through a tremendous amount of hurt, deep grief, very darkness and sadness. And he was talking to the diviner, and the diviner said, you must cross the river. You must cross the river of disparity. of calamity, but you will come out on the other river dry. You will come out on the other side of the river dry. And he never understood that. He's like, well, how can I go through this river and come out on the other side dry? He didn't understand it until he went through the experience of deep sorrow and grief. And when he got to the other side, how he came out the person that he never thought that he was going to be, because within going through that time of disparity, he didn't think he was going to make it. He thought he was going to drown in that river. Not only was he cold and wet, he was sadness. He was seeking. He was drowning. He found himself not being himself because he felt like he lost a part of himself, only to realize when he got out of that drowning state, on the other side of the river, he was completely dry. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. I'm telling y'all, man. Consciousness is the true reality. And how we choose to experience that reality depends on everything that goes on in our inner world. It's a lot of distractions. But back to the light. Because we're attracted to the light. However, we know that we must grow in the darkness. Oh, man. See, this is where it gets tricky. That's what Malidoma was. He was in the darkness. He was in the dark, murky waters of the river. He was wet. He was cold. It was dark. But he needed to grow. He needed to grow in the deep cosmos. And those deep cosmos and the dark matter and the dark realms of the universe is where the most brilliant light exists. But around that is the darkness of the calcination of the cosmos and the melanin, where you mold yourself and you come into this place. This is the story of the phoenix. This is the story of the phoenix. So I rose on the back of a gold phoenix. Y'all know that song. It's on Ghost Stream, Prophecy of Poets by Oasis of Spades on all streaming platforms. You will love that song. Prophecy of Poets by Oasis of Spades. So you're in the darkness and you rise up from the ashes. In this case, we're talking about the cosmos because we're talking about becoming our own light source. The eternal part of you, the self. The self is the psyche world of existence. The true concept of self and the knowledge of self is, I have a lot of books about the illustrious history of Afrocentric historical information, of course. Golden Age of the Moor, destruction of African civilizations. I have a J. Rogers book, Ivan Van Sertima, Chandler, Claude Anderson. However, there's another concept of the self, the knowledge of what the self actually is. And in African spirituality, it is the psyche world of what you cannot touch that is speaking through you right now. And that concept of the self is what we're molding to become our own light source that is connected to the infinite source of light. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. See, this is what this is all about. This is what this is all about. We have to understand, coming into who we truly are, there's going to be different parts and phases of finding different parts of who we are. So you'll go through a phase where you're failing really bad. You're making really bad decisions. You might have not had a father like me in your life that was active. You go through that phase. Or you might have both parents in your life, and you're going through phases to where you feel like you're not heard. You're the child that voice is never heard. and you grow up and you continue to feel like you're not heard as an adult. Oh, people don't hear me. They don't listen to me. That dims your light, because the moment somebody starts feeling like they're heard, it's the moment they start healing. So if a child grows up feeling like they're not heard, that means that they have a lot of room to heal. That directly relates to their health, being the HEAL without the TH. And then they grow up feeling like nobody is listening to them, because in their childhood, their voice was neglected. Therefore, their healing is stagnated. So as they grow older, they feel like nobody's listening to me. Therefore, it's harder for me to heal. So as healers, we have to make sure that we're listening to others. But it starts by way of how you're listening to yourself. And by listening to yourself, you become a better healer, because you can listen to others and open up a space for them to heal. And as they heal, through you listening to them and being a good listener, they come into a better space of healing. Now, they could have grown up not feeling like they never were heard. But that's what you go through, different stages of you finding yourself, and different parts of yourself develop. And people shouldn't judge you for the different stages and parts that you go through, but they do. They do. People stay stuck in a place where you were 14, 15 years ago. And that's okay, because it's like we talked about initially when we first started off, about how people who spiritually grow perceive time differently. They perceive time differently than most people. So you start perceiving yourself as timeless, because what's speaking through you is ageless. The self, the psyche world of where you sit at, is an ageless part of you. It's the part of you that's closest to the Creator. And you start feeling that you're closer to the timeless, ageless part of you. What's that book by Deepak Chopra that I'm reading now? Ageless Body, Timeless Mind. Talks a lot about awareness in that movie, adaptability, and being able to understand that you don't grow old. You get old when you stop growing. Think about that for a second. Because we're talking about consciousness, we're talking about the most eternal part of us that we can mold in order to not grow old, because we're always growing. Don't pay no attention to the outward appearance of someone who you might think looks old. But really, they're the youngest person, one of the youngest persons on the planet, by way of how their inner dialogue is, by the way how they talk to themselves, how they rejuvenate their subconscious mind to be connected to the Creator, to open up their intuition, to get the messaging of what exactly they're supposed to be doing, and surrendering to that. And once they surrender to that, that light starts shining. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. See, now I'm about to get my studio equipment in this joint, right? I got the studio equipment, but I'm about to get the software so I can start back recording, man, because my voice is sounding crispy lately, man. It's been sounding real crispy lately, man. Word. I'm telling you, man. I've really been pondering on this, because I've been coming into deeper realizations of how much of this is not real. A lot of religion keeps us bound here. They talk a lot about the spiritual unseen world and different things that exist in the spiritual world, but it really keeps you bound here because it causes so much separation with the people that you love the most. And then by the time you get to a place of understanding that none of that mattered, none of the wars, none of the people dying, none of the people that you debated with about this prophet, that prophet, or this, the only thing that mattered was that light inside of you that you neglected to mold because of old scriptures that people are still getting killed over. And the whole time, those scriptures was pointing back to the inward venture of going inside of yourself and fixing and polishing and cleaning your own doorstep. But the way it was interpreted, just took you all off track. The kingdom of heaven is within you. Is that not what Isa said? The Christ? The Christ consciousness is the true light. The light of that which we stop worshiping idols and start trying to become the light of which it represented. Consciousness is the true light. You know, there was a time with me, right, where I underestimated my own power. And I'm sure some people can relate to this. Right? I underestimated my own power so much to where I started believing things about myself that could never be true. The only way that I got out of that spell was to go to the lowest of the lowest parts of myself. And then when I found myself at my lowest point, I began to understand that how much of my power I underestimated and how much I cared about what other people thought about what I thought about myself. Oh, wow. Think about what I just said right there. I began to see how much I cared about what other people thought about what I thought about myself. Because that's really what happens. Not only do we care about what other people think about us, we also care about what other people think about what we think about our own self. That is directly correlated to your consciousness. Because if you're thinking about how other people think about you, then you have no time to really cultivate how you think about you. Develop how you really feel about you. What you think about yourself, how you feel about yourself, how you talk to yourself. Are you scared to talk to yourself? And when you do talk to yourself, what are you saying? Are you avoiding talking to yourself? Are you avoiding your own consciousness? You want to imprint a program onto yourself to take control of how you see and create a mental image of your own self, for your own self-concept, for your own self-placement, for your own self-sufficiency, for your own self-imagination. Imagination is God. You can imagine yourself to be anything that it is that you want. However, you're worried about what other people think about you, and you're worried about what other people think about you because you're worried about how you think about you. Now, when you're worried about how you think about you, I'm not saying it in a place of like, you're actually analyzing the way that you think about yourself so you can improve yourself. I'm meaning in a way of you're worried about how you think about you to distract yourself to find the deepest parts of you. So you can't do that. I'm worried about thinking about things like that. So I'm going to make sure I think a certain way and distract my mental concentration to deter myself to think about other things outside of myself and implement a program, an indoctrination to keep myself away from my true self. It's too scary there. It's too dark. I'm not ready to go across that river. I've been ready. I was born ready. I was built for this. I was built for this shit, man. Straight up, man. This year I'm about to clean all this shit up, man. Straight up, man. I've had people, I'm gonna tell you, you know, don't play the fence with me, yo. If you're gonna be over there and you agree with some people, what people say about me, and because you feel like you should do these things, is something that I don't care about anymore, and I'm totally confident now in how to develop new relationships to replace the old ones. Because one thing I found is that people are under programs to make them believe something about you that they feel strongly about that has nothing to do with the way that you think. And the way that you think and your thought patterns are such on an advanced level, but you doubt yourself. You doubt yourself because you think that you're supposed to be doing something based off of being around people who weren't around the proper people to direct us into the righteous way to do things. I didn't have a real masculine example in my life to go about doing things the way that a real masculine man should do things. I didn't. So, if you're not going to acknowledge me, if you're going to, act like we're cool, but you, at the same time, you have these secret thoughts about me in a sense of maybe how I should be and how I should do something, then all of that has to do with you, not me. Because the way that I view myself and the way that I view my consciousness is that I'm trying to get closer to a light that you're scared of, that you're blinded by. See that light right here? Look at that light right there in my hand. See that? This light represents the eternal part of you right here in my hand right here. The world above that right there, that's your body. This light here, this is the eternal part of you. This light is what actually is lighting up the world. That's why Ra was a representation of the sustaining of the light in ancient Kemet and other African spirituality systems, because they looked at it as dependable. The sun is going to be there. It's going to bring us light. It's going to bring us nutrients from the UV rays. It's going to bring life on earth. The plants are going to bloom. The plants are going to reach out to it. The trees are going to grow from it. Our crops are going to grow from it. It's even going to help produce rain for the fall and for us to have a good harvest. You have to harvest your light. You have to harvest your consciousness. And when you're doing that, you're getting out of a program. So people are going to look at you like you're crazy. They're not going to understand what you're going through. They're not supposed to, because it's your own personal revelation. And in your own personal revelation, you're going to go through things that you're going to get ridiculed for. You're going to get criticized for. Every mistake you make is going to get amplified. And then when you finally get it right, you're going to get no acknowledgement from those people. You got to let go of those people. In order to, you have to make sure that you're experiencing reality exactly the way that you're meant to experience it, by way of how you mold your light, which is your consciousness. And your consciousness is going to be very much the key in how you talk to your inner self to raise your awareness. To raise your awareness to where it is that you need to go, where you need to be led to, what you need, what your purpose truly is. And having faith and staying in that purpose, so that you know. Hold on a second. My computer about to go dead. There we go. Yeah. All right. Oh man, your purpose is key for using for having a meaningful life. So if you, even on a human level, if you really believe that you're supposed to be going to a place that involves you not being outside of nature for 8 hours a day, not using real life primitive human skills and community, not allowing you to use your critical thinking, and you're just doing something robotic to continue to live in a matrix where capitalism and a sheet of paper controls everything in this world. If you, this is about rising above all of that, molding your consciousness. Because once you do, when you find your purpose over profit, because the profit is going to come once you truly get in your true purpose. It's going to come to you. It's going to attract to you, but you got to be brave enough to do it. That's what I'm saying. People not brave enough to do it. They're not brave enough to really find. Oh, they don't care. They don't care. They don't care. And that's okay. Because a careless life is a life that most people choose to live when it comes to being plugged in to the program that they want you to be on. Whatever the program is, whatever the new song is, whatever the new rhythm is, whatever the new frequency is that they want you to be on and want you to listen to, that's what you're going to be on. But some of us create our own frequency and find that frequency to lock into that's going to raise us up and above. You know what it... the distorted frequency, the frequency is the rhythm, the hertz, the information, the rhythm, your frequency, the vibration, the vibratory rate that you're on to elevate your consciousness to the point where you can transcend the things and the programs that they're trying to control you with. So I have a bioscanner, QRMA, Quantum Resonance Magnetic Analyzer. And what it does is it measures the electrons rotating around the nuclei that creates, it measures the rotation. Well, really what the electrons are doing, they're making like a orbit, but not like an orbit as we think it is. It's more like a cloud of electrons around the nuclei that it can be measured. And if there's any imbalances with that electromagnetic wave that the electrons are creating around the nuclei, it can detect diseases within the metabolic systems. It can detect diseases in the digestive system. It can detect diseases in the limbic system, in the endocrine system, just by measuring of that electronic or that electromagnetic wave that's going on around the nuclei. That's how powerful frequency is. So all your cells are giving off an electromagnetic wave and the frequency of that. So if you're in a state of worry, how are you going to manifest anything? If you're in a state of scarcity, how are you going to manifest anything? If you're in a state of, what kind of vibration do you think you're giving off? That's the key. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. The consciousness is the true light, y'all.